Chapter 1. When Phileas Fogg Meets Passepartout. London, 1872. Let me begin by introducing a mysterious English gentleman called Phileas Fogg. Most people don't know very much about him, but because he does the same thing every day, some people think they know everything about him. He is very handsome, and he is a true gentleman. He is certainly rich, but no one knows how he made his money. Has he ever been to another country? He can name a lot of countries on a world map, and he knows the most incredible things about them. He probably travelled at one time, but some people insist that he has not left London for many years. Maybe he only travels in his head. He is a very private man, and he does not have many friends. The only time he speaks to other people is at the Reform Club, where he goes to read newspapers and play cards. He does not play to win. He plays for the enjoyment of the game. He often wins, but he does not keep the money. He gives it to charity. He likes to see his games as a challenge that does not require any physical effort. He has lunch at the Reform Club every day, in the same room, at the same table. He goes home at midnight. He lives in his house in Savile Row, a good address in central London. No one ever goes there except his manservant, who must always be on time and be completely loyal to Phileas Fogg. In fact, this very morning, his manservant lost his job because the water he brought Phileas Fogg was too hot to shave with. And this is where our story begins. Phileas Fogg was sitting in his armchair waiting for his new manservant at some time between 11 and 11:30. At exactly 11:30, Mr. Fogg goes to the Reform Club. He looked up at the hands of the large clock by the wall that counted every second with a loud tick. There was a knock at the door, and a young man of about 30 came in.
"You say that you are French, but your name is John?"
asked Phileas Fogg, looking at him carefully.
"Jean, sir, not John,"
said the young man.
"Jean Passepartout. I am an honest man, sir, and I must tell you that I haven't been a manservant all my life. I was a physical education teacher and a music teacher. Then I became a singer. I once rode a horse in a circus, and for a time I worked for the fire brigade in Paris. I found out that a certain Mr. Fogg was looking for a manservant. He is a very clever, careful man, they told me. You won't find a quieter man in all of England. He does the same thing every day. And so I came here to ask about the job, in the hope of finally being able to live a quiet life."
Yes, someone at the Reform Club told you this, I believe. Probably the same person who told me about you. Do you understand what type of person I'm looking for?
"Yes, sir, I do, and I think I'm perfect for the job."
Well then, what time is it now?
11:22, Mr. Fogg.
Passepartout replied, taking his pocket watch out of a small side pocket.
Exactly 4 minutes late,
noted Phileas Fogg, looking at his own watch.
So, let's say you started working for me as from 11:26?
Phileas Fogg stood up from his armchair, picked up his hat, and went out of the door without saying another word. From this brief introduction, Passepartout was able to make note of his employer. He was about 40 years old, an elegant man with an attractive, gentle face. He was tall, with blonde hair and a moustache. He was the sort of person who remained incredibly calm even under pressure. He had gentle eyes that fixed you with a firm stare. He never seemed upset or worried. He was a typical Englishman. It was always difficult to guess an Englishman's true feelings. And our Frenchman? Passepartout had an attractive face, and he was incredibly strong. He had blue eyes and untidy, curly brown hair. He was a sweet person who understood the meaning of true friendship and loyalty. It was just after 11:30, and Passepartout, who was now alone in his new home, decided to look around. After looking in all the different rooms, he finally came to his own bedroom. Above the fireplace there was an electric clock. It was the same electric clock that Phileas Fogg had in his room. The two clocks ticked at the exact same second. Below the clock, there was a piece of paper listing the details of Mr. Fogg's day.
Not bad at all,
thought Passepartout.
A man who is as regular as clockwork. This is just what I was looking for.
Chapter 2. When Phileas Fogg Makes a Bet. 2nd of October. Every day, Phileas Fogg left his house at 11:30. He put his right foot in front of his left foot 575 times. He knew the exact length of every step. And he put his left foot in front of his right foot 576 times before arriving at the steps of the Reform Club. He usually waited a little before having lunch at 1:13. Then he went to the lounge room, where he spent the afternoon reading the newspapers. At 5 o'clock he had afternoon tea, and at 6:20 it was time to go to the games room to play cards with other wealthy and respected members of the club like Sir Ralph Gautier and Andrew Stuart. On this particular day, Andrew Stuart started to read a story to them from the evening newspaper about a robbery at the Bank of England. The robbery took place on the 29th of September. The thief stole £55,000, while the head cashier was busy writing a receipt for just a few pence. England's best detectives were looking for the thief after hearing that the Bank of England was offering a reward of £2,000 to the person who was able to catch the thief. From the first investigations into the robbery, they knew only one thing for certain. He was an elegant, well-spoken gentleman. While the other members of the club sat at the table, ready to play their game of cards, Andrew Stuart continued to talk about the robbery.
Where do you think the thief is hiding? He could be anywhere. The world is so big.
It isn't so big anymore,
replied Phileas Fogg.
What do you mean?
Said Andrew Stuart with a laugh.
The earth doesn't get any smaller.
Ha! But the earth is smaller,
said Sir Ralph Gautier.
If you think that we can now go around it 10 times quicker than we could 100 years ago. Did you know that today a man can travel around the world in only 3 months?
80 days, to be exact.
Phileas Fogg corrected him.
80 days?
Asked a surprised man at the table.
Well, maybe that's true, but only if you don't consider bad weather, storms, shipwrecks and other things,
said another.
In 80 days, considering all possible events,
continued Phileas Fogg.
Ah, you think so, do you, Mr. Fogg?
laughed Sir Ralph.
Well, I'll bet £4,000 that a journey like that is impossible in such a short time.
I repeat that it is possible to do the journey in that time,
said Phileas Fogg, his eyes fixed on Sir Ralph's smile.
Well, if you are so certain, then do it yourself.
I will.
Replied Phileas Fogg.
When?
Immediately. And I'll bet not £4,000, but £20,000 that I can go around the world in 80 days. I will return here in 1,920 hours, or, if you prefer, 115,200 minutes. Do you agree to the bet?
They all looked at one another. They could not decide if he was serious.
We
agree,
they said.
Good. I'll take the train for Dover at 9:15 this evening. The bet starts as from...
Phileas Fogg took a small notebook and pencil from his pocket and made a note.
The 2nd of October, 8:45 p.m. And I will return here to the Reform Club at 8:45 on Saturday, the 21st of December. If I am not here by that time, this cheque for £20,000 is yours, gentlemen.
And with these words, he left the cheque for £20,000 on the table, picked up his hat, and went out of the door. At 8:10, his manservant was surprised to see his new employer come through the door.
Passepartout, we're leaving in 10 minutes. We're taking a train to Dover,
he said.
From there, a boat leaves for Calais at 11 o'clock tonight. We're going to go around the world in 80 days. We haven't another second to lose.
His employer did not seem to be in a hurry. The opposite, in fact. He spoke a little quicker, but he behaved in the same calm way.
Around the world?
Said Passepartout to himself.
Well, really?
He thought, shaking his head. Just when he finally thought he had the perfect job. He wanted to work for Phileas Fogg because he was a gentleman who lived a quiet life, who always did the same things. And now, how could this be a quiet life?
Pack a small bag with just my night things in it, please, and pack one for yourself. We can buy everything else when we need it,
added Phileas Fogg. And with these orders, he left the room. Passepartout continued to feel a little confused, but he followed his master's orders. He quickly packed their bags, and at 8 o'clock they were ready to leave the house. Phileas Fogg opened Passepartout's bag and put £20,000 into it. He closed it tightly. 20 minutes later, they were at the station.
It must be the money for the journey,
thought Passepartout as he sat on the train thinking nervously about the money in his bag. He did not want to lose the bag. After being in the newspapers, Phileas Fogg's journey wasn't a secret. Soon, everybody in London was talking about Phileas Fogg's departure and his plan to go around the world in 80 days. Some people thought he was mad. Others said he was a genius. But a few days later, the front pages had another story. A certain Inspector Fix, a detective for Scotland Yard, said he knew the identity of the thief. All the evidence pointed in one direction, to a well-known and respectable member of the Reform Club, Mr. Phileas Fogg. Chapter 3. When Gentlemen Are Thieves. 9th of October. Inspector Fix was one of the detectives investigating the robbery at the Bank of England. In his years as a detective, he knew only one thing for certain. All the biggest criminals looked like respectable gentlemen. The money, the quick departure, it all made sense. Phileas Fogg was a respectable gentleman, and he, Inspector Fix, wanted to get the reward for catching him. He soon discovered that Phileas Fogg was on the Mongolia, a ship that sailed from Brindisi in Italy to Bombay in India. Our detective decided to look carefully at all the people getting on and off the Mongolia. On Wednesday, the 9th of October, Inspector Fix saw Phileas Fogg and his manservant as they arrived in the Suez Canal.
So, there's our thief,
he whispered.
All I need to do now is to tell Scotland Yard and wait for a warrant for his arrest, and then the reward is mine.
Fix decided to speak to Fogg's manservant.
Egypt is a beautiful country,
began the inspector.
Yes, that's true, but we are travelling so quickly,
replied Passepartout.
Why are you travelling so quickly? Surely you can't see Egypt in only a few days.
My master wants to travel around the world in 80 days,
he said, looking at the detective's confused face.
I know. It's complete madness.
Well, your master is an unusual man, but I imagine he must be very rich to try to do a journey like that in such a short time.
To tell you the truth, he has the money he needs. But I really must leave. We have a boat to catch. Good day, Mr.
Fix. My name is Mr. Fix, and I believe that we are possibly going the same way. Are you also going to Bombay?
Yes, we are. Sorry, not to introduce myself. My name's Jean Passepartout. I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Passepartout touched his hat and waved goodbye. His conversation with Passepartout made Inspector Fix feel even more certain that Phileas Fogg was the thief.
I must stop him,
he thought. But how? Without the warrant for his arrest, it was impossible, and he could escape again. He was worried. Phileas Fogg, on the other hand, was carefully planning his journey. He kept detailed notes of the date, the length of each part of the journey, the time, and the places they stopped in. On the 10th of October, the ship left Suez for the next stop, Bombay. The sea was rough, but Phileas Fogg was not worried and soon found people on the ship to play cards with. On the 20th of October, they arrived in Bombay. Phileas Fogg and his manservant left the ship and went to the station to catch the train to Calcutta. On their way there, Passepartout began to think about his master's bet. He felt worried. Yes, it was true, they were 2 days early, but anything could still happen. The train left Bombay on time. 3 days later, the train stopped at a small village. Passepartout heard the train driver shout,
"Everyone must get off. The railway line ends here."
The railway line from Bombay to Calcutta was not yet finished. The passengers had to travel to the next station, Allahabad, on their own. People who often travelled between the two towns were quick to find a way to continue their journey. Among the different types of transport, there were little carts pulled by cows and ponies, and rickshaws pulled by bicycles or the men from the village. Passepartout was worried about how to get to the next station. But Phileas Fogg immediately found a man with an elephant, and after a short discussion, the man sold him the elephant for a very high price, and the two travellers were soon on their way to the next station with a guide and the elephant called Keowney. At about 9 o'clock that night, our adventurers came to a big forest of palm trees where they had to stop to let Keowney rest and eat the leaves from the trees. For a few days they slept in huts in the middle of the jungle. Sometimes they heard the cries of the monkeys and the sound of the tigers. Their journey was going well until the elephant suddenly stopped. Chapter 4. When our adventurers rescue a woman from certain death. 26th of October. They stopped near a village where they heard the sound of strange musical instruments. Their guide went to discover what was happening, and he was soon back with the news. The people of the village, their guide said, were celebrating a local tradition called sati. Our travellers immediately wanted to know more about it. The guide told them that when a woman's husband dies, his wife must die with him, and they burn her alive in a big fire.
The name of the woman is Mrs. Aouda,
He told them.
and she's very beautiful. Everyone knows her. She is from a rich family. Her father was a businessman in a town near Bombay. Her parents sent her to a European school in Bombay. She learnt European languages there, and she has European ways. Her parents died, and she had to marry an old prince. She became a widow after only 3 months. They are taking her to the pagoda tonight. They are going to burn her alive tomorrow at sunrise.
My goodness! How terrible! Do such traditions still exist?
Asked Phileas Fogg. He seemed surprised, but his voice sounded curious.
Poor woman.
Whispered Passepartout.
We can still save her.
Said Phileas Fogg.
We are a few hours ahead of time.
Yes, sir. If we save this woman, they'll try and kill us.
Said their guide.
I can only speak for myself, but I am prepared to take that risk.
Replied Phileas Fogg.
Me too.
Said Passepartout. When they arrived, they started to plan the rescue. Unfortunately, there were guards all around the pagoda, and so they decided that it was too dangerous to do anything. They were about to leave when Passepartout said that maybe he had an idea. When the sun came up the next day, the crowd arrived to see the bonfire ready for the sacrifice. Our travellers disappeared among the people. They saw the dead prince and his young wife through the smoke. Phileas Fogg prepared himself to run towards the fire in a final effort to save Mrs. Aouda, when suddenly a terrified cry came from the crowd. Her husband was not dead. He stood up in the flames, took his wife in his hands, and ran in the opposite direction to the crowd. It was not difficult to imagine Phileas Fogg's surprise when he later discovered that the woman's husband was Passepartout. A few moments later, our heroes disappeared into the forest with their new travelling companion, followed by the angry guards. Mrs. Aouda slowly started to wake up when they reached the station at Allahabad. Phileas Fogg thanked his guide for his loyalty and gave him the elephant. For a young guide, an elephant like Kiouni was a big present. He could make a lot more money now that he had his own elephant. He was very happy and continued to thank Mr. Fogg and the others until they left. On the train to Calcutta, Phileas Fogg and Passepartout told Mrs. Aouda all about their adventure. Mrs. Aouda couldn't believe it. These men risked their lives for her. At 7 o'clock, they arrived in Calcutta. The ship for Hong Kong did not leave until 12 o'clock midday. Fortunately, they were still on time. Inspector Fix was also on his way to Hong Kong. How did he know they were there? How did he get there? That remains a mystery. But one thing was sure. Inspector Fix was determined to arrest Phileas Fogg, and he had a plan. He just had to wait a little longer. After the ship stopped for a short time in Singapore, it continued on its way to Hong Kong, where, on the morning of the 6th of November, a boat going to Yokohama in Japan was waiting for them. Unfortunately, they arrived a day later than planned because of a bad storm.
Oh, no!
Thought Passepartout.
The boat will leave without us, and my master won't win his bet.
When they were at the port, Phileas Fogg and Passepartout walked towards the captain of a small boat.
When does the next boat to Yokohama leave?
Fogg asked.
Tomorrow morning.
He replied.
Didn't it leave this morning?
No, they had to repair it, so it's not leaving until tomorrow.
Passepartout was very happy to hear this good news and shook the captain's hand. The captain was a little surprised. Phileas Fogg simply wrote how late they were in his diary. The 6th of November, -24 hours.